boldip.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Bold Inventor Show. I'm JD Houvener and I'm with my co-host Matt Kulseth.
Well, hello JD. How are you, man?
Matt? I've been good. I've had a couple of weeks off. We're starting, I feel like we started summer here almost.
Nice.
Out here. Weather's been great. How are things out there?
Good. Yeah, it's beautiful here in Minnesota today, but Maggie took me to New York City for my 40th this last week.
Sweet. Congrats. Happy birthday, belated.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Yeah.
Are you 40 yet?
Yes, I turned 40 in March.
Okay, yep.
I was kind of quiet about it. Yeah,
I was trying to be too.
Entering our fifth decade. It's like
things are good, man. No complaints. No legitimate complaints. How's that?
Yeah, well, that's good. Wow, absolutely. You're alive and well, like you're healthy.
Yeah, good.
Good. Kids doing good?
Last week of school. So tomorrow is their last day, and then they go off to camp for a week, and then we're gonna go do a road trip, and it's gonna be a fun summer.
Well, that sounds good. Well, we're getting down to business today. For all those joining our broadcast today or watching after the fact, we're attorneys, and we're talking about inventions and trademarks. So we'll talk about patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets. I'm a patent attorney. I'm the founder here at Bold Patents Law Firm, also the author of Bold Ideas, The Inventor's Guide to Patents book right over my shoulder. I'm going to give you a link right now before I forget about it. This is our Inventor's Kit. You can download that at this link here and also get a copy of that PDF just for taking some time and downloading the kit. It's a great way to get started if you're new to invention. If you've been around the circle once or twice, you can learn a thing or two. So check out our kit at that link. I've got a special guest you saw from our title, Shawn Miller, that rides the Turfboard revolution. You might have heard of this for some of those old timers that have been around in the 80s and 90s. He's got a new idea, a new iteration of this. And we're going to go through some of those stories from way back when he kicked this off too. So Shawn was going to be with us in about 10 minutes. We'll have a nice interview, and then we'll do our Shark Tank critique of a young innovator who was on Shark Tank a few years ago with his skateboard. So Matt, we've got a handful of questions that Amira has been nice enough to collect for us.
Let's get it.
5. Let's see if we can knock out 5. We got 1. I'll kick off the patent side. This was such a good question. I saw it earlier. I was like, yes, this is a good one. I'd like to talk about it. I feel like I have a good answer. So I got the advantage of seeing the question before, whereas Matt is not going to have that benefit. So here's the question. I'll read it aloud for our podcast listeners. I've seen several yes and no answers to this question. Most recently, I saw in this comment in this group, your deadline for a regular application, this is a patent application, will be for 1 year from your earliest date, while also resetting the 12-month deadline. Wherever their answer is, there's a lot of bad info out there. So filing a PPA could constitute as a public disclosure is what they've been told. The real question is, if an invention is otherwise not publicly disclosed, can a PPA be refiled at a later date and reset the priority date? It goes on to talk about what the USPTO says that PPAs are not reviewed, which is true, and a utility patent is applied for, and further PPAs remain confidential, even if after they expire. Okay, there's a lot of information, and I think misinformation out there about PPAs, provisional patent applications, disclosures, non-provisionals, lots of jargon there. So let me just unpack it as clearly as I can. By filing a provisional patent application, which is a PPA, that is locking in the date. That is really the goal of a provisional, is you're getting that filing date secured. Whatever you submit, and you hopefully it's solid, right? You work with the council and you get a nice specification, drawings, and even a single claim. You have to follow within 1 year a non-provisional patent application that will make reference back to that first filing. Because the PPA is private, is not published, it is not a public disclosure. Some inventors that want to be more conservative after filing a PPA will not go to market, will not share their invention, launch their product, and therefore they have not publicly disclosed. And so it's very possible that even if a year goes by, if you've kept that information confidential and that provisional expires, and there's no way to now make reference to it, you could file a subsequent provisional patent application. The only risk, of course, is that there might be a separate inventor that independently invents that same or very similar subject matter somewhere else in the world. And so you lost that year of priority. And yes, you could certainly file an NPA following, again, so long as there's no other inventor that came in later. there's a lot to say about public disclosures too. It really is quite simple in that it's what an ordinary person in the skill of that invention, right? A researcher, whoever it is, let's say skateboards, that's making, playful, accessories or even related to skateboarding or sports, would they have the ability to find your publication? So a website certainly would do it, a book, maybe a trade show publication, right? But probably not just handing it out to a few friends, right? So there's some levels of disclosure. A single presentation to a small forum might not, as long as it's not publicly available to the ordinary skill in the art, it may not rise to the level of a disclosure. So long answer, but I wanted to make sure I got that out there.
No, that's great. It's a really important question.
Yep. All right, let's go to our second one.
Confusing for us lay people, us trademark attorneys.
That's a good one. There's a lot of information. I think it's easy for the layperson to get confused, even someone who's in the invention world.
Yeah, I always tell trademark clients too, right? At the surface level, trademark law, like patent law, you can kind of understand it, right? But once you get down into it, right, that's where mistakes get made. If you don't know what you're doing.
Well, let's get to it. We're gonna go to your direction here. Is it legal to use someone else's trademark without permission if it's not for commercial purposes and does not cause harm to them, such as using their logo on an event poster?
Yes, no. Yes to the first part. You can use somebody else's trademark. You can display somebody else's trademark potentially if you're doing it in a non-commercial way and you're doing it with like a First Amendment interest, right? You're displaying public speech. You're making a criticism. That's when you could use somebody else's trademark potentially to reference them. Cool. Now, like this example of such as using their logo on an event poster. No, you can't do that because that event is commercial in nature. Even if you're not charging folks to go to the event, it's still commercial in nature.
Okay. A nonprofit, right? Or at a school.
It's still commercial in project it's still commercial in scope because you are affecting commerce by having this event potentially, and you may be somehow taking money out of the wallet of the trademark owner. So
yeah, that's good.
I always tell clients you can't use other people's trademarks unless it's for non-commercial free speech, right? And you're not making any money on it. You're not negatively impacting their money. As soon as you start impacting their wallet, that's trademark infringement in my world.
Cool. Thank you, Matt. I love this question. What popped in my mind is cereal boxes. I spent a lot of my time, as a youth and sometimes now, sometimes you'll see compare to or similar to, Kellogg's cornflakes, right? If you got the off brand. So that's allowed?
Yes. Okay. Comparisons are allowed Yes. So that would be a comparison. I guess that would be an exception to it.
Yeah. But no, otherwise you're not going to be able to just hang the Kellogg symbol up under your
No, and I think any judge would say too, compared to Kellogg's brand and you use their logo.
Yeah.
They're not going to like that because that's more than what is required to inform the general public about the statement you're making.
Perfect. Yeah. So, you're not going to, minimum.
No more than is necessary. Essentially.
Perfect. All right. A couple more here. You answered that superbly. This one is the patent side. Okay. I think this was good. I highlighted it. All right. If I have a patent on some technology and I decide to give up that patent, release it to the public domain, or otherwise relinquish it, can someone else patent that technology later on? Well, the answer is no. The answer is no. In order to get a patent, it has to be first of its kind. And so if you have filed for a U.S. patent or in any other country, it has gone through the process of publication. And sometimes you have the non-publication request, and then it will wait all the way up until it's been issued. So assuming you have an issued patent, it is certainly published, and it's going to be able to be used as what's called prior art to prevent another inventor from getting a patent on the same subject matter. The question about releasing it to the public domain, that's the kind of two pieces there. One, you certainly are able to not pay your maintenance fees which are due every 3, 5, 7 years, and then it will expire, and you will be unable to enforce it against a third party. And the other piece is you could just not enforce your patent rights, and you kind of relinquished it. There are other ways you could control it, perhaps a third bucket where you could license your patent to sort of control who might be able to access it. Maybe you're giving it to if there's such a thing, I should know, sort of a Creative Commons type thing where you're going to give it up to a specific use and maybe provide some limitations so that maybe the big bad conglomerate corporations can't use it, but this is usable for individuals, maybe of X amount of income, small businesses, that type of thing, which might lead toward where you're going in the philanthropic realm. Matt, any thoughts on that?
No, I love that answer, JD. Yeah, there's no form that you can submit that makes your your patent publicly available or anything like that.
I should there may be something like that. I know there are groups of organizations that do collect patents from a licensing perspective. They'll sort of bundle them. Yep. And there may be a bundle of patents related to certain technologies that the innovator just wants to give away. They acquired or got the patent sort of an academic or, like I say, more altruistic intentions, and they want to prevent anyone else from getting a patent on it. So they're, in a way, by getting a patent on an invention, you have taken that away from anyone else.
That makes sense. And also I can see how, potentially a larger company who maybe develops a new format for some sort of audio, visual, whatever, right? They might want to open it up to the public, right?
Yeah.
Because they want adoption, widespread adoption. I think back to VHS versus Betamax, right? And you remember that?
Yep.
So there, for those listening at home, there's an old patent story about VHS and Betamax, and there were two competing videotape company formats back in the day, and ultimately VHS proved to be more successful than Betamax, due in large part to Sony's opening up of the patent to third parties to produce these VHS products. So,
that's a good reference, Matt. I remember that. I didn't actually remember that it was related to sort of this open.
Yeah, I think it was. I think Betamax tried to really be hawkish with their patenting, their patents, and Sony said no, we're just going to open it up.
Very cool. Yeah, maybe one of the first open source. I'm going to write that down. Betamax. Okay, let's do one more on your side, and then we'll wrap up. Here we go. This is an Amazon question. I know you've got a lot of clients on Amazon. Long question here.
Longer the question, shorter the answer.
I submitted a trademark infringement report on Amazon for a product using a registered mark without permission. The product is counterfeit, and we've never authorized it. Amazon rejected the report automatically, right? Sort of a robot kind of answer. Repeated claim against the same ASIN IP combo, even though the issue hasn't been resolved. What have you advised clients? Have you seen this before, Matt?
Yeah, I have. So assuming, of course, I'll back up a little bit. In order for you to make a trademark infringement claim successfully at Amazon, you're going to have to participate in their Amazon brand registry. So that's basically where you take your U.S. trademark registration and you slap it into their system, and they say it's registered. And then that way you can actually enforce the trademark against resellers and third parties at Amazon. But here, I don't know if they've necessarily gone through that brand registration process with Amazon Seller Central, but if they haven't, they need to. That's the first step. Okay. The second is, it's not uncommon for Amazon to kick back a lot of these reports, right? And your job as the trademark holder is just to keep pushing them. Eventually, you will break through to somebody who can actually help you, but it's a lot of work. There are law firms out there who specialize in Amazon practice. So this exact kind of thing, or you're delisted, or something happens to your account at Amazon, there are law firms out there who specialize in dealing directly with Amazon. So that's probably where I would look next.
So in terms of, whether you submit it as the trademark attorney representing the client or the client does it on their own, have you noticed any change in sort of this
No.
Do they take you more seriously because you're an attorney?
Nope.
Got
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So it goes to an automated, system somewhere in the other side of the world.
Right.
And if you're lucky, you're going to get a response back from an actual human, not here in the United States.
Okay.
And you'll never talk to anyone here in the United States. So
Okay.
it's, I always tell clients, who are planning to sell on Amazon, Amazon is great, like on the consumer side of things. But if you're a vendor dealing with Amazon, they treat you like dirt.
Oh, brutal.
So,
okay. Yeah. Different side of the equation there. It's a lot going on.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt, for that insight. And I think with that, we'll bring on our guests. We've answered quite a bit. Shawn, let's bring you on. Shawn Miller, welcome to the Bold Inventor Show.
Hey guys, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for being on, taking time, showing off your new Turfboard. I'm excited to get to that, but I want to go through a little bit of history for those may not have been familiar with the Turfboard. Would you walk us through how this came about and bring us back when this first started?
Yeah, it was years ago. I took a break from college and went out west and became a ski snowboard bum. and then me and a friend moved. I had family in California and moved to California. And on the way, we were looking for spots to go snowboarding, in the off season, and actually went to Mount Shasta and climbed up the glacier or whatever there. And, just as we were driving around, I was like, oh man, if it had snow here, this would be amazing. There's so many amazing spots. And then that, really was the germination of the idea of, hey, maybe I could come up with something that would be counter season.
Nice.
And then it stuck with me like a plague.
It's hard to get rid of a good idea.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of trial and error, a lot of, going back to school and then, just deciding that, hey, I want to go for it. And, was blessed with a really good partner in the beginning. And was able to, really get down and, problem solve was, but it was the cool part about it was the problem. Like I loved this, trying to find the solutions to multi-layered problems. How do you accomplish this? What would this look like? To be successful in achieving, the goal of replicating snowboarding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, from a rowdy kid skateboarding and stealing the track's plywood to build a ramp.
Plywood's gotten a lot more expensive.
To always trying to find a way, So yeah.
Okay. Well, how did you make the first one? I mean, give us a little insight. I mean, to the mad inventor that had to make this happen. What did you do to kind of get it going?
Yeah, I had a buddy who was kind of playing around with the early AutoCAD and kind of had some sketches and did some renderings and worked with him a little bit on it and then kind of came up with a rough idea and then went to a aluminum casting forging place here and just to get an idea like what's sand casting like, maybe we could do a sand cast mold because it's cheap and but quickly figured out that that wasn't a good West. Too much porosity in the aluminum, not enough strength or weight, and then I enlisted a tool and die gentleman helped me kind of build this sketch of this first deck or board. And ridiculous. That's
the first version, the black one on your.
No, that's like a second. The first one, I don't even know if I have it, JD. It was like, and then it was super heavy, and it just did not work whatsoever. So I had to come up with a pneumatic tire idea, and that everything on this had to be custom to fit with what needed, like I felt that needed to accomplish the goal. And so I, came up with, this 3-part rim with the vulcanized rubber tire that wouldn't tear up the vegetation.
I remember talking to you about this, and I remember getting off that call after talking to you, being like, man, like it seems like you had to build this thing completely from scratch. And you know, I remember you telling me about these tires, right? And
I think I found the video. I found
a set of tires, wheels.
Okay, I found this catalog from 1998. I think
yes.
This is yours. Is this yours?
Yes, that's it. Yes.
Here it is. I mean, and the pictures aren't, look at this.
That's it.
Turfboard.
Way to go, JD. Yeah.
Okay, let's put some more. So there it is. Look at that.
There it is. Yep. Exactly. There it is. Yeah, the first iterations of it. Exactly.
That is insane. Look how complicated that is. I love it.
There's evolution. There it is. The full deck. Snowboard bindings. So that you were pretty on purpose about that.
Yeah,
suspension.
Wow. Yeah, you had to make sure that you're attached to it. Otherwise, it's it act like a trampoline. It would just bounce you off.
Each other.
Oh wow!
Super cool.
Okay, tell us what happened to Turfboard. I mean, or what is it still going? Did it last the past 25 years?
It's lasted in my heart.
Well, tell us how the first version sunsetted. Give us some of the pain or whatever.
Yeah, we had a really, what we found, we had some barriers to, getting started. Our initial manufacturing run that we did, we kind of were a little too hasty in doing that. So, word to the wise, do a small run. Don't do 1,500 units. And,
did you have an investor? You must have had an investor, or were you something?
I did, yeah. And it just put an immense amount of pressure on us. And, and we came to find out hey, we need to kind of refine this a little bit, a lot more to make it more comfortable. And that's kind of what I've been working on, or have worked on and finished, was refining it to a point where anybody can ride it and feel comfortable. And the boards will grow with you as you grow. If from a youth on up, it's modular. You can change it out so that right away you're going to be successful. Whereas the original one was pretty intimidating in a way, but still rideable and everything. But it still was because you were pretty high up and it was pretty narrow on the wheelbase. So I really felt like I needed to get that kind of that lean, like a snowboard carve, but what I figured out is with a little bit wider wheelbase and how I've got it, the shocks and everything, it creates that just by
Shawn, is there a handbrake on that? Is that what that cable is?
Yeah, exactly. It's a dual drum handbrake. So
it has drum brakes.
Yeah, drum brakes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
For those listening at home, that is not something you expect to see on a downhill ski board.
Right. Which is really good to have. It kind of a confidence builder, Matt.
100%. I'm sure they function incredible.
But you're able to control your speed just by turning it. You can carve, really nice GS cruising feeling, and then you can do these power slides. And cool. I have a couple of videos. You could probably see some of that. So yeah, it was.
Shawn, I think you need to get this back out there in the world. I think we need to go find you some influencers in the snowboarding community who can just rip this thing in the summer and put some viral videos up for you.
I love it. Yeah. It would just be the coolest thing to just see it being utilized. And to me, what a great caveat to ski resorts, summer activities, which they're, they'll a lot of them sit idle, and that's a shame because they're beautiful places to visit in the summer. I know a lot of people go to these resorts and visit them. So this would be a great caveat to some summer business that they could get, and then as a family, be successful doing it and have a really good time.
Awesome.
Safe, gotta have a helmet,
For
Can
sure.
you show up
Have
when
you
you try?
have you ever tried? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, JD.
Well, I was just saying, I was had maybe hold it up or point out maybe some of the differences, from Gen 1 to Gen 2 that we're looking at.
Yeah, so like this Gen 2, like I had parallelograms for my drop down, and then I just simplified that into this main housing here, which you can adjust your height just by here. So you start out low, and then as you get more comfortable, you can raise this up.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then you gotta have a handle here so you can grab it.
How heavy is it?
I've got in this slot system here for the bindings for mounting them.
That's
So
cool.
there's no, debris and stuff can't get in there for, in the T-nuts or the inserts.
For the folks listening at home, what Shawn has here is a skateboard on steroids. This thing is bullyish. It is big. It is nasty. It looks real cool. It looks like a ton of fun. Lots of aluminum, shiny aluminum on it. Like if you're into engineering and high performance anything, this is probably the thing you want more than anything.
Yeah, it's all aircraft 6061 aluminum.
Yeah,
that's cool looking. I love it.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
You got those videos. Can I show off one of those videos? So
absolutely.
Okay. Thanks. Let's get the video. We won't be able to get the audio, so feel free to kind of talk through as I go.
Sure.
Put your channel, The Turfboard, for YouTube at The Turfboard. So video 1, or do you want to do video 2 to show off the new?
I would go video 2 is a little bit, they're both good, but the first one was the first iteration. And you can see these guys are great. Jeannie Grimes was one of our riders. Andy Ross. That guy's Lucas. He was born with the missing part of his leg, so he has a prosthetic. That he's riding the board. And you'll see in the video. That was the old generation where the lower parallelograms. I forgot the gal's name. Great. Just a bunch of really good young people that helped film this. This was filmed at
where at? You said
in Buckville.
Okay. Nice. That's a lot of control.
That's the original one. And then you can see you can slide it.
How far? A couple minutes? Here?
Yeah. You can see the brake.
Shawn, have you ever seen one of these out in the wild?
Their mountain board has a version of it, but the difference between this and mine is it's not a shared axle. So you're stable at high speed, so it turns in that instability into the action of absorbing. So you're able to go a lot faster without having the instability of one wheel rotating faster than the other, which causes that instability. That's the original design. The height, you can see it here pretty high up. So and then I moved it to this lower one to try and get it. Yeah, it's so funny to use
this. So awesome. Was there anything else you wanted to show on this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Did we catch it all on this video? Should we forward it, or did we catch most of it?
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
Very cool.
Love
Thanks.
it. Okay. So, so what are you looking to do next? What's kind of your, if there's a barrier, what is it now?
Well, I've another one was, having 3 kids and and they found hockey. So, Matt, I don't know if your kid's doing that stuff yet, but.
Oh yeah. They're not hockey, thank God, but soccer and swimming. It's every night.
Yeah, it's all year round nowadays, but Yeah, they're kind of off. They're in college now, and super proud of them. And they're all pushing me like that. Go revisit your passion and see about that. So yeah, I'm just in the infant stages of kind of rethinking what that might look like, and trying to align myself with some potential partners that could do kind of a grassroots approach, or just go big, but not real sure 100% on my direction yet. So looking at that. So
well, I mean, do you think, Shawn, do you think technology has changed at all? And if you were to revisit this, are there new composites that would be more suitable, easier to manufacture, less overhead? Do you have something in mind?
Yeah, great point. Yeah, definitely. I think there's a lot of new casting options, different materials that were pretty exotic back in the day, and procedures.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of the stuff you could have 3D printed. The metal components too, right? That's, Forge Metal does that now.
Yeah, 100%. And then there's always looking at the iteration of adding power to it somehow, maybe, which I have a design in mind for that. But
you're going to stick a Segway, on it?
Stick a scooter motor on there or a chainsaw. I don't know. But, but exactly, yeah, finding other materials and, streamlining it in a better way to, cut some costs out of it.
And Shawn, I was thinking after we last talked, I wonder if, because there's these RC jets now, right? And they're big RC jets. I mean, you ever looked at the wheels for those things at all?
I haven't, Matt, but I'd be interested to see that, because this setup, these tires are pretty heavy, and I've re-engineered them to cut about 10 pounds overall off of what it would be. So, which is a fine line there, because you want to have that base of something underneath you, so you're not all over the place chattering, riding it kind of like a mountain bike. You don't want it too light. So there's a fine line, but it'd be nice to, cut some weight out of it,
Cool.
Make it a little bit more nimble. But yeah, no, definitely something to research and look into more, and reboot what I've got, or relook at it, retool it. So
from a invention perspective, do you think you hit on something novel, in terms of that height functionality, or maybe the way you've got it, the actual spacing, even the dimensions or the proportions of the wheelbase to the size of it?
Yeah, definitely. There was a formula there that was a sweet spot for sure, and I really feel like I found that. I was telling somebody this morning, I had some kids that rode it that never been on a skateboard or a snowboard, and they didn't even fall. It just came really easy to them, and then there was this young girl that was staying at the bottom, and she was cheering, freaking out because she loved it. So kind of neat. So yeah, it was fun. It'd be fun to see it more available. And like I said, I redesigned it to, to fit that family excursion where, hey, we're going to try this together and have this experience, and be really fun, exhilarating, and as safe as you want it to be. Really.
Yeah. Well, I think you've hit it. I mean, California mountains, right? And I'm a Washington native, but like you said, they're going to get dry. There's no snow on there, maybe as soon as April, May,
yes,
right? And
yeah.
So, do you have relationships with anybody at maybe just pick one and just be like a launch mountain or launch hill?
Yeah, that would definitely be the approach, JD. Like one or a couple and a partner with them, and West Coast, maybe Midwest, and then East Coast, and even one overseas. Like my daughter and my son were both studying abroad this spring winter, and a few of the ski resorts, they have these off-road trikes that they're renting, just keeping people busy. So yeah, it's a great idea to utilize these beautiful spots, and that it's a shame that a lot of them sit idle, vacant.
Yeah. And then that's always fun to talk about. What would happen if they say, "Yeah, I want 50 of these"? Would your eyes get really big, or would you be excited? Do you have a way to just order?
I might have. I'm a national account manager for retail rep agency. So we call on so I might have some contacts that I haven't addressed yet, but that could probably help me get that to come to fruition. So
that's awesome. Well, I hope for the best.
I might have. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, so you've already talked with Matt on trademarks. Obviously, we'd be happy to help if you think there's anything you want to try to protect from a patent perspective, and research a little bit there.
Yeah.
If you thought of anything, we'd be happy to do a free consult for you. Have you talked with Troy?
Yeah, that would definitely be helpful, and I will definitely reach out to you guys and for that for sure. It was just a pretty busy month here, but now things are settling down. So I'd like to try and put some focus into it at some point. So
fantastic. Well, thanks again for coming on as a guest. I'd like to have you stay on for our last segment here. We're going to do a Shark Tank critique for a young skateboard inventor.
Sounds good. I do have a question for you if there's time. I was just curious, what you've seen from the demographics or the age group or what area of people are applying for patents. Is it just tech, or is there any mechanical stuff? Is there anybody going out and coming to you who's a little younger? It's hey, I've got this prototype and I want to develop. Just
good
really
question.
Curious where that content is coming from.
I'm looking through what I based it off of is our conflicts check form, and I see all the different subjects and titles, and I would say now almost half are computer AI related, maybe a little less than half, but a huge chunk are still consumer products, electronics, hardware, gadgets. They're very much still out there. I can't necessarily speak to age, but it really is all over the place. We have several young inventors, several that are well into their 60s, 70s plus, It's really all over the place. And that's one of the beauties of serving the individual inventor at Bold is we do get a wonderful assortment of call it the everyday inventor, the entrepreneur in all of us, really. Yeah. So it's really a cool thing that we get to do here. And that's not a generic answer for you, but there probably are some data, probably with regard to, percentages of inventions filed, from a mechanical or automotive.
I love that. I was just curious because it's just, I think there needs to be more.
Yep, absolutely. I think a lot of people are scared. There's a lot of stuff right now. Still persisting confusion from the courts about abstract ideas, and what's eligible as a patent. And I think there's even, the ongoing concern about how do I afford enforcement, even if I get a patent, right? I'm the little guy, and the horror stories from the bunch of balloons guys. It's just there. It can be intimidating for sure, but it certainly does still benefit the inventor, give them confidence as they go to market that they can really say that, hey, I've got some protection. And investors still appreciate and will get behind something that's novel, and someone who can, if we got the right pockets, you got the right strategy, can enforce it against others.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, hang tight. If you go on mute for me, Shawn and Matt, I'll go to our Shark Tank, and I'll share my audio, and then we'll have you back on just a little bit. And Matt, give me a thumbs up if the audio is working.
Burst into the tank is a young entrepreneur who solved a problem he had with his favorite hobby.
Hi, Sharks. My name's Carson Kropfel. I'm an 11-year-old inventor, skater, and surfer. This is my friend Sierra.
Hi, Sharks.
Hi, Sierra.
Hi, Sarah.
I'm his mom, Carrie, and we're from San Clemente, California.
I am seeking $60,000 for 15% of my company. You just saw my first invention. It's called Street Tubes. It lets riders surf anywhere, anytime, because it looks and feels like you're totally getting tubed. My second invention was when I first started middle school, and it was the first time I ever had a locker. My locker was decked out and awesome, but none of my skateboards would fit in it. So I decided, what the heck? Why not just make one my own? This is a locker board.
Locker boards are handmade and reshaped from recycled skateboard decks. At only 16 inches long, they fit easily inside of backpacks and lockers. And they're good for the planet.
Thanks, Mom. Let's pass out some samples. Media.
Really?
He's made $10,000 in revenue since he started.
So Sierra, your girlfriend?
No.
Wow. What will you do with the money if somebody puts it up?
Manufacturing, upgrading my website, buying trucks and wheels, hardware in bulk.
How many skateboards have you sold?
I have sold 231.
What does it cost you to make one?
So the deck cost me $3, but now Vans put me in touch with their manufacturer, Madrid Skateboards. So that cost $13, and I'm now selling them for $52.
Wholesale.
Wow.
Wholesale.
Retail, what's the price?
$99.
Where do you make it now?
My husband set up a shop for him, and he's been making them in the backyard.
I mean, I remember when I started in business, my headmaster called me into the study and said, look, you either leave school and you run your business, or you stay at school and you don't run your business. I was 15. I said, okay, I'm off.
I dropped out of high school when I was 16, so I waited an extra year.
Did you really drop out of school?
Yeah, I was a high school dropout.
Did you go to college?
Yeah, I was.
That was my education. But
Carson, you said that you had gotten some help to make these because you can't make them anymore. What's your deal with them?
Madrid Skateboards, and they are manufacturing my boards, doing everything, and then I just put the trucks and wheels on.
How do I know there isn't a Carson in New Jersey doing the same thing?
The main reason skaters buy product is from brand loyalty. When they go to buy a locker board, they're gonna want a locker board, not some fake. 2, they're really hard to make. You have to have all the right equipment, all the right hardware. And 3, I'm in patent pending status.
You kill it. Drop the mic.
oh, health is great. We'd love you to give it a shot with us.
It's a deal.
Right. Richard Branson. Talk about some deep pockets. So I want to get your impression, Matt, first on the locker board. Would you, put this inside the locker? Can it be a unique shape? I'll talk about
they got a trademark registration through.
Okay.
I mean, it's suggestive in the sense that, my concern, if I were to, talk to Carson initially, would be that, hey, this seems kind of descriptive, right? Like, I know what a board is. I know what a skateboard is. This goes in a locker. Or it's small enough for a locker, right? So it feels pretty descriptive, but the standard is not just descriptive. It's merely descriptive. So if there's any kind of, gray area, whether or not this is descriptive or not, it's not descriptive. It's not really descriptive. So he was able to get 2 registrations through, one for a word mark, another for a logo. And he's protected in the sporting goods category, class 28 at the USPTO.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you know it? Are they still active? I know they have an Amazon store, but I don't see the website.
So on the update, they did sell to Whammo in 2020. So this was filmed in 2018. Richard Branson's investment led them to get much more manufacturing, get some traction, and they sold to Whammo, who's selling it still today. And I'll share it right now. It was undisclosed how much, the sale was. But
Sure.
See if I got for. There it is. It's called the Wheels Locker Board. And so there it is. It's for sale for $50 now. You can buy it. It's the Whammo Wheels Locker Board. They kept the same logo, the design mark, with the 2 kind of the blue locker on the O and the locker and O for board. And then I think as of 2024, they're looking to sell. He's still the CEO, but they're still in some control of it. He's looking to transition out of it. From a design perspective, patent perspective, they did have a design patent secured, and so that was good to hear. They were pending at the time of presentation. They were able to get it issued. I'll show off that patent here. U.S. design with a D, patent 825700 for a skateboard deck. So it was just the deck they got. This sort of unique proportions where the wheelbase is really, not the wheelbase, it was that sort of the longitudinal base. The axes, along the axis is so short.
Yeah.
It's kind of a wave feature. and so relatively, tight corner to provide perhaps some functionality. But with the design patent, one of the important things to understand is that you're really only getting the appearance, just the aesthetic look, not any protection on what it actually does.
Yeah, not much here is there to protect.
Yeah, I mean, it's so there is kind of this view here where there is a bit of a, angle, sort of a parallel. What do you call that? Been a while since.
Yeah, I don't know.
Smiley face. What's the term? Oh man. Anyway, I'm blanking on it.
Convex.
Yeah, thank you. Convex, and there's some curvature shown as well on this side too. So that's what a design patent covers. I think they were able to wow the sharks a bit and get them in line there with kind of his focus on getting those sales through social media. But I don't know. I'm not a skater. Could you actually have the same experience with a shorter board? Maybe I'll leave that to Shawn.
It looks real
sketchy. I applaud him that he came, had the idea and executed it, which is rare, especially for a young person. Now he's probably a lot older, but one thing brings to mind is it's really important in skateboarding is having a kick tail and tails front and back, so just to have it, just cruise around. What's the difference between that and Heelys?
Yeah, I would like to see an expandable skateboard,
but
a full-size skateboard that could be shrunk down.
Yeah, what I was thinking right away is if he had, some way to affix a kicktail and a note where you could pull them off and then put them on there, and then I would, probably enhance the performance. But it's still really cool. I thought that's great. It makes sense to fit in the locker, and there's no books in there anymore, so why not put a
That's true.
Yeah. What else are you going to put in there? Cool. Yeah. Well, I think working with space and size is important. That's quite the constraint to fit it inside of a locker. Shawn, anything you had to do kind of to maybe think about shipping? We've talked about size concerns on shipping, or maybe just in terms of a rack on a vehicle. Did you put that into consideration?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I've come up with is the original board, as you could saw, was actually made in snowboard molds, but considerably different in guts of it. It was really really stiff platform to be able to carry the weight and take that energy and push it over the suspension system and then get some flex in the board itself. But yeah, it's 163 centimeters long. And then, which is, difficult to ship. So this version here is, cut at the end. And so it's just shorter. This is the larger model, and then the junior model would be a shorter board.
Right.
Then also just made it so that it could grow with you. The boards as you get older. Like I mentioned, you can buy a new deck and new compression springs and new shocks and what have you to expand it so for your size and weight.
Fantastic. Shawn, if someone happens to watch this video after the fact and they want to get a hold of you, are you willing to share your email address?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Go ahead, fire it away. Let me know what it is, and I can put it in the comments here.
All right.
Well, I was going to type it in for you. I think I've got it. Is it ShawnMiller09.ss
Yes.
at Gmail?
Yeah.
Cool. I just wanted to get your authorization there. Okay. Get hold of Shawn. If you want to just check in with him, cheer him on, give him some, tips. If you're on a mountain, maybe you've got some options. You want to test this out, or a rider, feel free to reach out to Shawn, myself, or Matt. But Matt, that's about it. Anything you wanted to close out with today? Matt?
Super cool. I'm really glad to see you again, Shawn. This was
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, fun interview.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yep.
Keep doing it. It's a good thing. So.
Yep. Go big, go bold, everybody.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Bye.
Bye.
Go big, go bold at boldip.com.